السلام عليكم ومرحبا وأهلا وسهلا بكم في درس جديد. Peace and hello and welcome to a new lesson. The previous grammar lesson we learned about parts of speech in terms of noun, verb and particle in Arabic, and we also discussed nominal and verbal sentences. So if you haven't watched that lesson, it's very essential and important that you go back and watch that one before you continue with this one. In this lesson, we're going to study the subject and predicate in Arabic grammar, المبتدأ والخبر. So last lesson we discussed what we call a nominal sentence, الجملة الاسمية, and basically it starts with a noun, and you have to know what is meant by a noun in Arabic because that's quite different to what we call a noun in English. So a noun in Arabic could include demonstratives, relative pronouns, obviously proper names, and even names of places and so on. So go back to that lesson, very important, and review your information. So basically a nominal sentence or an equational sentence is made of two parts, the subject and the predicate. So the subject, basically it starts the sentence. So it's the very first part of the sentence, and it gives us an idea of what we're going to talk about. And it's usually, generally speaking, it's a definite noun, because when you're trying to inform someone about something, let's say, البيت كبير, the house is big, you started with a definite noun because it's something that you're familiar with, that you're going to talk about. So it's something that you already have some information about that you're going to share with a second party. So it's usually a definite noun, but of course there are exceptions. And typically in the nominative case, except when you have something that we call, that will come in and intrude in the sentence, which we call النوى أخواتها, but that's not part of our lesson. So typically if there's no additions to the sentence, it's in the nominative case. So that's the first part, like البيت, and it's always in the nominative case. And the second part, when we say كبير is big, that's what we call الخبر, which is the predicate. So it's basically the news. So in Arabic, مبتدأ is what you start with. That's the typical translation. And a predicate or al-khabar is actually news. So that's what the second piece of the story or the information that the other party is waiting to hear about. And typically it agrees with the subject in terms of the case ending. So it's going to be in the nominative case, unless you have additions like kana wa akhawatuha, it's going to be in the accusative case, but that's not what we're going to discuss in this lesson. So we're going to just discuss about a simple nominal sentence made up of mubtada plus khabar. Just one thing, normally you have it in this order. So al-baytu kabirun, but there are exceptions where in some cases you flip the order around, and we'll come to that in a bit. So the first exercise for you is to read the following sentences and distinguish the subject and the predicate. اقرأ الجمل التالية وميز المبتدأ والخبر. أنا مسلم. المسجد بعيد. أحمد معلم, and so on. So pause the screen, take your time, let me know which one is the subject, al-mubtada, and which one is al-khabar. And remember, it's only one word. So in the case of زينة نحيفة جدا, we're going to ignore جدا. Okay, answer. So you can see I've got here المبتدأ باللون الأخضر والخبر باللون الأصفر in yellow. أنا مسلم. So أنا مبتدأ, and you can see it's a pronoun here. So you can start a nominal sentence with a pronoun like أنا, أنت, أنتِ, and so on. Muslim is the predicate. المسجد بعيد. So we started with a definite noun. Again, it could be a pronoun, it could be with an L, Or over here, Ahmed is the name of a person, or Beirut, the name of a place, proper nouns. So you start the nominal sentence typically with something that is definite. Like الرحلة طويلة. الرحلة is definite with the L, so that's the subject. القلم أحمر. So مبتدأ. And the yellow ones are the news or الخبر. المشاكل كثيرة. So problems are a lot. So المشاكل over here مبتدأ كثيرة الخبر. And notice مبتدأ can be singular, plural, same thing with الخبر. It could be in the singular, it could be in the plural, it doesn't matter. زينة نحيفة جدا. So she's very skinny. So زينة proper noun, مبتدأ نحيفة خبر جدا is just additional, which means very. خالد سمين جدا. خالد is المبتدأ, سمين الخبر. الرياضة مفيدة. So sports is good. So الرياضة is the subject and مفيدة the predicate. الكلب نائم. الطالبان حزينان. So the two students are sad. So subject and predicate. So that's an example of المبتدأ and الخبر in the dual. الولدان مريضان. So the two boys are sick. أنت سعيد. You are happy. هذا بيت. This is a house. So what we can learn over here that the subject is always mostly 90% of the time or 99% of the time is going to be in the definite case, which is a proper name, a pronoun, a demonstrative, or it could be as well with إضافة. So let me give you this example. When you say اسمي أحمد, for example, my name is Ahmad. So ismi is composed of ism, which doesn't have L, so it's not definite. But when we add the ya, which means my, it became definite because now it's my name. So it's something that's familiar and known. It's not any name, it's my name. So my name is Ahmad. So now we have a definite noun. So any noun will become definite by means of idafa or annexation, idafa construction or annexation. For example, if you say عمري 10 سنوات. I'm 10 years old. So عمر is age plus the ya. Now عمري, so it becomes my age. So that's a definite noun. And the predicate is 10. That's the predicate. So very important to know that idafa makes the noun definite. So don't make the mistake of starting a nominal sentence with an indefinite noun if you're a beginner. So you can't say masjidu ba'idun because you're speaking about al-masjid. The mosque is far. And in English, sometimes when you're speaking about general things, you don't use al, but in Arabic you have to. For example, let's say dogs are animals. Dogs are animals. So you don't say the dogs are animals, but in Arabic you have to say al-kilabu hayawanat. When you say life is beautiful, okay, but in Arabic you have to say al-hayatu jamila. Life is beautiful, so you have to start with al. So that's a pointer for you. Okay, so المبتدأ can be a plain noun, اسم ظاهر, something that you can see and it's obvious. البيت كبير. سارة في البيت. So سارة, البيت, you can see them. It can be as we said, a pronoun, ضمير منفصل, like a detached pronoun, like نحن في البيت, نحن ندرس. It could be اسم إشارة, a demonstrative, like هذه سارة, and over here a pronoun here, صديقتي, she's my friend. It could be a relative pronoun, اسم موصول, so التي دخلت صديقتي. So she who entered is my friend, my female friend. So just examples of an obvious pronoun. And it could be as well what we call the derived, or something that is not straightforward, مصدر مؤول. So what is al-masdar al-mu'awwal? It's usually when formed when you combine an plus the verb. Very well-known example, أن تصوموا خير لكم. To fast, or that you fast, is good for you. So you can always replace an and the present tense with the gerund, which is صيام or صوم. So صيامكم خير لكم. صومكم خير لكم. So always and plus the present tense verb, you can change it to the gerund. أن تجتهد مفيد لك. So to work hard is good for you or beneficial for you. We can replace it with اجتهاد, the gerund from verb اجتهد. So اجتهادك, your hard work, اجتهادك خير لك. وأن تصبروا خير لكم والله غفور رحيم. So over here you can replace أن تصبروا بصبركم. So you can say صبركم خير لكم. So your patience is good for you, and God is forgiving and merciful. So that's an additional piece of information. So a subject can also be masdar mu'awwal, so derived or not straightforward. But if you're a beginner, just focus on the simple things that we've discussed. If you're already at an intermediate level, that's good to know. So I've written here N, P, and M for you to remember. So noun, pronoun, etc., and M as in masdar. Al-khabar, the predicate. So al-khabar could be one word, it could be a sentence on its own, which could be nominal or verbal, or it could be a prepositional phrase. Al-baytani kabiran. So the two houses are big. هذه سارة. This is Sarah. So over here, one word. So this is the predicate or the news. سارة زوجها طبيب. So you notice here, زوجها طبيب can be a sentence on its own. If I remove Sarah, زوجها طبيب is a proper sentence. Her husband is a doctor. So that's like literally a sentence within a sentence. So the predicate over here is a nominal sentence. So زوجها طبيب. So that's the news or the predicate. So her husband is a doctor. In English, you would say together, Sarah زوجها طبيب. Sarah's husband is a doctor. And the predicate could be a verbal sentence. So سارة تدرس الطب. She's studying medicine. So تدرس الطب جملة فعلية. It's a verbal sentence. So the predicate over here is a verbal sentence. And if you just remove Sarah, تدرس الطب, that's a sentence on its own, a verbal sentence. Or it could be a prepositional phrase. سارة في البيت. She's in the house. So في البيت, that's the prepositional phrase, which is composed of a preposition and the noun. So different ways of constructing the predicate. What are the signs of the subject and predicate? So it's important to know that they're in the nominative case, both of them, unless you have additions like kana wa akhwatuha or inna wa akhwatuha, which we're not discussing in this lesson. البيت قريب. So the dhamma is the easiest and straightforward sign that you normally see normally for singular, like البيت قريب. So dhamma or double dhamma. Obviously dhamma for a noun with alif lam, alif التعريف. So the definite article. And قريب, double dhamma because it's indefinite. So you cannot say البيت. Double dhamma or tanween doesn't go with the alif lam, the definite article. الأصدقاء أوفياء. So over here, الأصدقاء, one dhamma, أوفياء, one dhamma because أوفياء is a tip top noun. So one dhamma. المعلمات مجتهدات. So over here you have broken plural, الأصدقاء. المعلمات is sound feminine plural. So when you have singular, like البيت, when you have broken plural, like الأصدقاء, when you have sound feminine plural, like المعلمات, you're going to have a dhamma or double dhamma for the subject and the predicate. Now, in the dual, البيتان قريبان, you don't see a dhamma. Okay, it's the alif over here, which is the long vowel alif. That's the sign of the dual. So when you want to change something to the dual, you're adding alif noon, al-baytani. Unless it's in the accusative case, it becomes al-baytain. For example, I saw 2 houses. رأيت بيتين. So that's going to be in the accusative case. But over here, nominative case, alif noon. So the alif is the sign. قريبان. That's the sign for the predicate. الصديقان وفيان. The 2 friends are loyal. So again, the alif. المعلمتان مجتهدتان. So again, the alif is the sign for the dual. Now for the sound masculine plural is the waw. Just be careful, that's a waw, that's not a dhamma like here. Waw, المعلمون مجتهدون. So waw in the nominative case, because that's the natural case where the subject and the predicate are in. العالمون جادون. They are serious. The scientists are serious. السائحون متعبون. The tourists are tired. So the waw in the case of the sound masculine plural. So these are the signs of the predicate and the subject. Remember the dhamma or double dhamma, the alif and the waw, always in the nominative case unless you have intrusions to the sentence. Answer the following questions. أجب على الأسئلة التالية. So, ضع كل جملة في مكانها المناسب من الجدول. So you have to categorize, basically place each sentence in its right place in the table. جملة فعلية وجملة اسمية. So we're going to have to practice that before going to the next exercise. Let's see if you remember from last lesson. So بارك فيك الله. الله ربي. نجح محمد في الامتحان. He succeeded or he passed his test. بدأت العطلة الصيفية. The summer vacation or holiday has started. العطلة على الأبواب. That means the holiday is near, or literally at the doors. That's a common expression that means it's near. المدرسة مغلقة. The school is closed. Pause the screen again because I'm going to skip to the answers. So, بارك الله فيك جملة فعلية. It started with a verb. نجح محمد في الامتحان. Started with a verb. نجح. بدأت العطلة الصيفية. Obviously a verb. So that's a verbal sentence. Now, nominal sentence, which is made from المبتدأ والخبر, subject and predicate. Over here, الله ربي. Subject, predicate. العطلة على الأبواب. So subject and predicate is a prepositional phrase على الأبواب. المدرسة, subject. مغلقة is the predicate. اقرأ الجمل التالية وميز المبتدأ والخبر. So again, read the following sentences and tell apart or distinguish which one is the subject, المبتدأ, and which one is the predicate, الخبر. أنت كريم, you're generous. هما تلميذان, both of them, they are students. أحمد مهندس. Ahmad is an engineer. So did put noun over here. مكة مدينة. Mecca is a city. الحج قريب. المعلمون سعيدون. The teachers are happy. Hajj is near. The teachers are happy. الشمس مشرقة. The sun is shining. Pause the screen again if you need time. Over here. أنت كريم. So أنت subject. هما subject. أحمد. مكة. الحج. المعلمون. الشمس. So these are all مبتدأ. So over here you have a pronoun, proper noun, name of a person, name of a place, a definite noun as well. So they're all definite nouns. Al-Hajj with al-Muallimun, al-Shams. Notice the signs. Now for pronouns, they're what we call mabni, which is They don't change. So you don't put a dhamma. It doesn't become antu or huma u or something like that. So it's always going to be anta and huma. Okay, so for pronouns, for relative pronouns and demonstratives, they're not going to change with regards to case endings. But over here, if you look, Ahmadu takes dhamma, Makkatu takes dhamma, Al-Hajju dhamma. Now, Al-Muallimun, remember the sound masculine plural, we use the waw, and that's the sign in the nominative case. So we don't say Al-Muallimin, we say Al-Muallimun because it's in the nominative case. Ash-Shamsu with the dhamma. Same thing for the predicate, double dhamma. Over here in the dual, alif, because it's tilmi than, two students. Ma tilmi than. We don't say tilmi thain in the accusative. Tilmi than in the nominative. Muhandisun with a double dhamma. Madinatun, double dhamma. Qaribun, double dhamma. Sa'iduna, wow, because it's in the masculine plural. Mushriqatun over here with the double dhamma. Ash-Shams is a feminine pronoun in Arabic. Some nouns, although they don't have the endings that are typical for feminine nouns, but some hands are just feminine. Like yad is feminine, a hand is feminine. Ash-Shams is also feminine. Or Ash-Shamsu mushriqatun. The moon, by the way, is masculine, but the sun is feminine in Arabic. In other languages, it's different. So we've already gone through the case endings, and I've explained each one. النهاية, the end. هذا كان كل شيء. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next lesson. في رعاية الله وحفظه. مع السلامة.